Hi everyone, Dr. Forrestbeck here, author of the upcoming book, Cultivating, the Fine Art of Selfishness, due out in bookstores this October. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the fine art of living, the fine art of woodworking, the fine art of needlepoint, but you probably haven't heard of the fine art of selfishness. Well, I'm here to suggest that selfishness should in fact be elevated to a fine art. And let me tell you a little bit more why I think that is. For a decade now, I've seen patients who have chosen to help their pets before they help themselves, help their friends and family members before they help themselves, help neighbors, and heck, just about anyone before they help themselves. And I think this is exactly backwards. I think in order to positively and sustainably impact those around you, you have got to focus on your own needs first. And I know this may sound shocking and counterintuitive to a lot of you, and you may even feel guilty about it. But you know what? I also know a lot of your stories. I know that you're fatigued. I know that you're extremely stressed, overwhelmed, not sleeping well, not eating well, and you may even have relationship issues. Well, how do you expect to positively change those things if you don't focus on them and if you don't focus on yourself first? So before we get too much further, let me back up a moment and tell you what brought me to this conclusion in the first place, tell you a story. You know, it's been about 2 years now. My wife and I decided to go on a rare date night. And we went downtown to one of our favorite restaurants, and then we're going to catch a movie afterwards. And I was sitting down, or we were about to sit down to dinner, and I realized that I hadn't checked voicemail, and I had seen one of my parents call earlier in the day. I couldn't take the call at the time because I was in the middle of seeing patients. So I checked voicemail, and I immediately froze. I heard my mom, she was sobbing uncontrollably. She was hysterical, asking what to do. And what she described to me over the phone was that she had just gotten home from work, and there was my dad laying on the floor, completely lifeless. And you can imagine, all of the emotions surging through me at the same time. Complete shock for one, but also a lot of guilt for not taking the call earlier in the day and knowing that my mom had had to anguish, all this time. And, I told my wife very quickly, and then I made a beeline out of the restaurant to call my mom. And, we made the arrangements. We went, had the funeral and the service and all of that stuff. But it really got me thinking. This is nothing unique. We all have loss in our lives at some point. And, I'm certainly no different in that regard. But I really do think these are opportunities to evaluate the big picture. And, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and that's what I chose to do. I thought about, my dad he's just a really wonderful guy. He was just so caring, so fun-loving, so jovial, and extremely, extremely giving. And it makes me think of this, not the giving part, but the funny part about him when he had this big belly for the last 15, 20 years of his life, just like Santa Claus, if you can imagine. And I liked nothing more when we had a family gathering to, just start busting jokes one after the other, because he laughed just uncontrollably at a lot of things, and his eyes would just tear up. He could barely breathe, but it was just one of the most funny things to see as his belly was just jiggling down there like Saint Nick. So, that's kind of my dad, but he was, like I said, he was extremely giving, almost to a fault. And I really think one of the things that hit me is, why do people wait so long to help themselves? Why do they not focus on their own needs before they choose to help so many other people? Because ultimately, everyone suffers in the end. you can only help so many people before you start to suffer and sacrifice your own well-being. And that's what happened to my father. But it also got me thinking about my patients. I have seen so many of them make those exact same mistakes, or what I think are mistakes, because they're helping other people, or they're putting things off because they think they'll do something one day in retirement. And I know my dad had a long list of things that he really loved doing, but he never got to do a lot of them and spend enough time on them. So in thinking about this, I thought, well, what am I really up against? In practice, I would think about empowering my patients. I would teach them things to be more independent of me, even, because I wanted them to take power and charge of their own health care as much as that was possible. But when you think about society at large, the message is completely different. Whether it's the school system, the government in general, big media, religious organizations, the message is all the same. It's woven in that you should be selfless, you should be altruistic, you should be continually giving. And I think that is a load of bull. I think in order to do those things, and I love I understand, I get the fulfillment from helping others. I've been a doctor now a decade, and there's nothing quite like that, that fulfillment you get. But how can you do it day in, day out without expecting, to not suffer? So, I thought about how can I counteract this bigger message that's out there? And that's what really prompted me and motivated me, drove me to write this book. So I did that each and every day for a couple of months. I just, banged it out. But so let me tell you a little bit, that's what prompted me to write it. Let me tell you a little bit more about the actual book itself. It's broken into 4 parts. The first is on what we call selfish habits, or what I call selfish habits. And it's, productivity tools, things you can do that will really allow you to focus on your own needs first. The second section is on selfish work. Finding fulfillment and finding clarity in what you're doing, whether that's working for someone else, working for yourself, and even in hobbies and things you do. The next one is selfish health. These are selfish habits that you need to create in your health care and your well-being, so you can continue day in, day out, getting adequate sleep, getting proper nutrients, being hydrated, all of these things that really, make the most impact on your day-to-day life. And then the last section is the last few chapters are on selfish wealth. And, personally, you can be as rich as, anyone in the world, but if you don't have your health, you don't have any of that. None of it's really that important. So all of these things are interrelated. The traits and the qualities that you need to have in order to be successful, whether it's in your work life or in your health or in your financial success. So that's really what the book is about, focusing on yourself and that will allow you to impact the greater community. The tagline of the book is improving community by empowering individuals. And I really take that seriously. I want to give you as much value so you can impact as many people as possible. I hope you find this of value, and I appreciate the time you've taken today to watch this, and I would love it if you made a comment below. Thanks so much for listening, and take care. Bye-bye.